Hello, Sarah of SEK Handmade here, and today we're going to talk about modifying my Francesca headband. I am absolutely in love with my Francesca headband, and while I thought I wasn't much of a headband person, I'm finding I wear it quite a bit because they're super comfortable. I guess what I was missing was a handmade headband. I am going to modify my Francesca headband into a red, white, and blue theme. Typically, I'm not a big themed holiday kind of person, but I really think that modifying patterns is an interesting challenge to my brain, even when it's my own pattern. I always learn something new and have a lot of fun doing it. I think it's something that intimidates a lot of people, so I want to start bringing you along when I make modifications to patterns so that hopefully you can grow in confidence and try some of it yourself. It's really just a matter of an adventurous spirit and a willingness to try new things and frog things when they don't work. So we're going to turn my Francesca headband into red, white, and blue. Let's go. I am going to try to modify to make a red, white, and blue version because, as I said, I'm not a big holiday-y kind of person. And because this bright red and white are not in my color palette, I just wanted to grab something inexpensive and quick at my local craft store. I got these at Joann's, had all the coupons, which is always nice. The tricky part is made with a DK weight yarn, and these are sport weight. So I'm going to have to the 2 strands together to get it to be the right weight. So for the blue, I'm just going to pull from the inside and the outside of my ball. But for my white and my red, I'm going to hand wind a couple extra balls, and let me tell you why. So at first I had this grand idea that I was going to do a center panel by the twist of the headband in blue, which I think I'm going to do. But then I was thinking, if you can see the stitches here, there are a couple little groupings of them. I was going to alternate red and white for the stripes to make the stripes wrap around the headband. But as I started thinking about how many balls I would need to hand wind to make that happen, my head started to spin. And like I said, because this isn't something I'm going to wear all the time, I decided I wanted to keep it more simple. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to alternate. There are kind of 2 sections here, a solid section and then my crossed treble crochet sections. I think I'm going to alternate those red and white. The tricky part is that these are odd numbers of rows. If it was an even number of row, I would go down and come back and all of my yarn would hang out on the same side that I needed to pick it up again the next time. But since it's odd, I'll go down and back and down again. And then I'll switch and I'll go down, and then you'll see I'm down at this end, but I need the yarn that's down here. So because I hate weaving in ends, and because I have this border that goes all the way around, don't mind West in there being noisy, I think I'm going to wind 2 balls of the white and the red, and then I'm going to alternate between them. So, and then just carry the yarn up the sides because it'll be covered with this edging. So that's my first attempt. Fingers crossed. We'll see how it goes. So I decided to get started on my red, white, and blue headband as I took the boys to the Children's Museum, which my boys are old enough to entertain themselves, but probably wasn't the smartest thing because, one, I forgot to take scissors with me. I told you I was going to hand wind some balls. I got going on that, and then I had to say, hey, boys, let's go to the art section so that I can borrow the scissors, which they were wonderfully understandable about. But what I wanted to show you was that as I got working on my stripes here, first of all, I'm loving the way they're turning out. And my 7-year-old said, Mom, is that an American headband? And I said, yes. So it feels good when somebody else recognizes what you're trying to do, right? But I talked to you all about like the stripes and the sides of that the yarn was going to end up on. And I told you I was going to hand wind 2 balls of each, red and white. But as I got working on it, I realized that wasn't going to work either. So as happens, guys, you need to know when you go into modifying, that happens a lot. you think in your brain, oh, I know exactly how it's going to work, and then you get started on it, and it doesn't work that way. And that's fine. That's totally fine. So what I have done instead of having the extra balls of yarn is that as I work the first row of the new color, I take the previous color and I'm holding it under those stitches to carry it back to the other side of my fabric. So I'm going to hold it under the red stitches all the way across, and then it's going to be back on this side, which is where I'm going to need it to start my next set of white stitches. And then I want to show you, I'm also just carrying the yarn up the sides. That looks for like a messy edge right now, but part of my headband is working a border all the way around it. I'm going to test it out and see which color hides those carries the best. I'm kind of thinking maybe blue. So I don't know, we'll see. So I'm going to show you. Oh, I also wanted to note that I said this was sport weight and two held together would be like a DK. This has become, it's a very heavy DK. Oh, and I'm all tangled here. Let me untangle. All right, so I just am holding my white yarn under where as I'm going to stitch. You just have to make sure that when you work your stitches, see, I'm catching, well, that's hard to see with that white yarn, but I'm catching that white yarn when I go through my stitch. Weston. Oh, but I did not catch my, pardon me, goodness. Working with two strands held together is always a little more complicated. I did not grab both of my strands. It also doesn't help that this is like a pretty thick DK. Okay, so when I'm crossing back over, I just need to make sure that I trap that white back under there again too. And then I'm just pulling through. So you can see that makes it trapped. When you get to the end of your row, I like to give it a little tug and then straighten it out just to make sure that I've got just about the right amount carried underneath. And you can see it, you can see a little bit how it's carried, but for the most part you can't even tell, and it's going to make having fewer ends to weave in, which is always my goal. All right, so then to change colors, I've trapped my white yarn all the way across the bottom of that row. I'm going to complete my stitch with the red yarn up until the last time I'm going to pull through. So my last two loops here, I'm going to drop my red yarn, pick up my white yarn, and use it to complete those last two loops, and now it's ready to go. Make sure you have kind of a happy medium of how you're pulling the yarn up there, because if it's too tight, it's going to squish, and if it's too loose, you're going to have a big loop that you have to cover up. So then I'm just going to turn, and now I'm going to make sure I'm trapping my red yarn in with my stitches, under my stitches with my white yarn. So I'm going to wrap this behind because I don't want this hanging out on front, because this is the front of my headband and that's the back. So if there's some funkiness to the back, it's fine. So what I like to do is I like to stick my hook through, put the yarn over my hook, and then complete my stitch. And then you just complete stitches as indicated by the pattern with that red yarn being trapped underneath as I'm stitching. And so then it'll hang out down here on my other end until I'm ready to pick it up and work my red row on the way back. I'm all done crocheting except for the border, and I'm super excited because as you can see I have 2 ends for my blue, 2 ends for my red, and 2 ends for my white, and then I'll have 2 more ends of my blue. But I feel really good to have such a stripy project and have only 2 ends for each color except for blue. I think in continuing on with my attempts to weave in ends as little as possible, I think I'm going to try to hold 3 strands, one blue, one white, and one red together to do my edging. And see, I'm hoping that that kind of marled look of the 3 of them together will make the color changes underneath just melt away, in theory. So let's see how that goes. So I started at this end. I worked all the way down the side. Nope, just kidding. I started at this end. I worked all the way down the side in my 3 colors, which actually it was kind of tough to do because obviously holding the 3 colors together was thicker than even holding the 2 colors together, which I already said was thicker than the DK weight I had originally used. But I just went and worked over all my ends, which was a little finicky, but preferable to weaving them in for me personally. So I worked all the way down the side. When I got to the end, I took my red and white and I held them under. You can see them a little bit there. I held them under the blue because when I seamed this together, I didn't want a bunch of red and white poking out. Looking back, I'm wishing I had made that stitch just blue, but you know, it's too late for that. I'm not going back now. Then I turned the corner, worked with all 3 colors, back down the other side, and here I am at my end. I'm going to clip that and finish it off, and then I'm going to seam these 2 together and snip off my ends, and I should be done. I'm not gonna lie, it turned out cuter than I thought it would. I actually really like how those edges swirl in. Don't know why I didn't anticipate that, but I did not, and it's super cute. So off to take some pictures. And that is how I modified my Francesca headband into red, white, and blue. This yarn was definitely different from any yarn I had made it in before. It is a smoother yarn, and to be honest, I'm curious to see if it'll stay put on my head or if it'll slip off, because I tend to have that problem. So I will have to let you know how it goes. Thank you so much for following me in this journey. I hope it's helped you to grow in confidence in trying to make modifications to patterns that you have purchased. I find it to be a lot of fun and always a little bit of an adventure. Thank you so much for joining me. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel, like this video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any in the future. Check for links down in the description to other relevant videos, as well as to the pattern. And to join my email list, I'd love to have you there so you don't miss out on anything SEK Handmade. Thank you again for joining me, and happy crafting. All right, let's put this on and see how it goes. Not bad. I think it's cute. I'm surprised. I think it'll stay in place just fine. I like how the twist goes in like that. Lots of fun. Yay.